Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Dan Larson, and let me turn off this music here. There we go. It's going to be a fun show. Thank you very much for everybody who's hanging out, everybody who's in chat. There is far too many people here already for me to call out individually, but I am seeing a lot of names I recognize. That is awesome. Thank you very much for coming back. There's a lot of new ones, so I hope you do enjoy the show. I want to get right into this, so let's get the rest of the crew out here. First off is my good friend and co-host of the Black Series Cantina, available on all your finer and not so finer podcast streaming platforms. It's Mike Kaess. Mike, hello.
Good to see me.
Good to see you. No flashy intro this week.
That's just Mike Kaess.
There's been so many technical issues on this end.
Yeah. And I was here for a lot of them.
If this thing is live, then I am happy right now. So we're good. I think chat is letting us know that we're live. That's all excellent. This is like what, 5 shows in a row, 6 shows in a row. So it's good
Something
stuff.
like that.
Hey, Mike, we missed you last week. I hope you're feeling better.
I am. I'm not dead, and that's the goal that I live every day with.
Another day above ground is.
That's right.
It's good to go. Also joining us tonight in chat is Kate in chat. Kate, how's it going tonight?
It's going well.
Excellent. Hello to everybody. Kate is Spoop's fan number 1, which that's not gonna make a lot of sense to people right now, but it should later tonight, hopefully, if all goes according to plan. But we'll see. We'll see. And thankfully, everything worked out. Joining us right now tonight is the voice of Gambit on XMen 97 and a whole lot of other stuff, which we will talk about in a bit. It's AJ LoCascio. AJ, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
I look as frazzled as I feel. I had Spectrum here just like minutes ago to fix my internet because it was just not working. So
I was like, for whatever reason, we could not get the mics on this end to work. I couldn't get Kate's mic to work, and I was like, you know what? AJ's having problems. I'm having problems. I don't care. Just turn it all off. Who cares? We'll draw the live stream. How are you guys? So I'm good. I'm here. Hopefully, you guys can hear me and see me. All right. Good. No, it's great. It's perfect.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
The only thing I can't do is smell you, so you'll have to describe that. But
oh boy,
you've got a package coming in the mail. It's a scratch and sniff. It's just pizza and cake.
That's the best smell combination.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
it's like a birthday party when I was a kid.
Diet.
Pizza and cake.
Yeah, exactly. That's whenever I have Doritos, I suddenly get like a craving for like Pepsi and cake and It's just it all goes together.
This is not, guys. This is not where my notes started.
Trying to think.
Well, for those who don't know, XMen 97 kicked off this week with a 2-episode premiere on Wednesday. I like that they did it that way. That's great. Gave us a nice little 2-episode hook to get us in. I personally am a fan of not dropping all the episodes at once.
Same.
I like the sort of getting back into this tradition of like weekly episodes. He even has Gambit here. Ryan Dole, everyone. That's Ryan Dole of Toy Anxiety and also Gotham City Tonight and of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
What does that mean? What did he do on Ghostbusters?
He is he works at a visual effects company.
Oh, that's amazing. I've been watching all the Adam Savage behind the scenes stuff with the tech and the toys, and it's
Yeah, I believe it's his first professional credit. This was also not in my notes for how I was going to start off. Praising Ryan Dole.
It's all good.
Your first problem was having notes, Dan. I mean, come on.
That's right. We should just wing it from here on out. But this is a long time coming. XMen 97. I know it's been in the works since 1996, I believe.
Yeah.
That's when it was announced, right?
It feels like that. Yeah. I want to say 2020 is when I started. Roughly or so, maybe a little bit later. But yeah, it's been a long process.
And I want to clarify something for people who don't know. Some of the voice actors on XMen 97 are the original actors.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wolverine is the original actor. Storm.
Yes.
Rogue.
Yes.
Beast.
Yes.
Is Magneto?
No.
Okay.
It's my friend Matthew Watterson, who's a big old dope.
And you are not the original Gambit voice actor.
No, I would have been too young. Yeah, that's pretty wild. I'm still not used to hearing that. It's still because I mean, I think I've mentioned this in the past. There's like a Mount Rushmore of things that I'm obsessed with, and X-Men is high on that mountain, and so it's specifically Gambit. So this is all very, very, very weird.
But so that's a good place to get into this. Is you were a kid watching X-Men back in 93 through 96, right?
Yeah, I was just talking to my brother about this. It's like I kept a journal of notes of like, okay, this is who Rogue's related to, and they have this power, and okay, like it was something we were obsessed with. We would run around like throwing cards, and he'd be doing optic blasts with red sunglasses. I remember we both bought a pair of like these red sunglasses we found at the dollar store because we're like, these are like Cyclops' glasses. So it's it runs deep. We're very, very, very dorky for this stuff.
And it's that's not a requirement, right? Like it's not a requirement that you have ever even heard of a character to be able to play a character in any kind
not
of
at
way
all.
like
It's if anything, it's actually a detriment to the process because you want to just nerd out and you're trying not to. I mean, it does have its advantages sometimes when you're in a situation where you can just add things that they're like, oh, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. But definitely, I don't think, being a foamer, which is a term someone used recently about people who are just foaming at the mouth, for something. I don't know how much that helps. Yeah, someone said that once. They were like,
I was
not a
Googling
foamer.
it.
And I was like,
Yeah,
what? Yeah, maybe
foamer.
don't
Is
Google
something
that.
I'm allowed to say?
Yeah, I don't know what that will bring up, but someone said it to me, and I was like, that's really funny. I try to keep it together. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my toys. I've got like, well, this is, I guess, my Gambit, not my childhood one is still in the package because I was that kid, but that's in the other room. But it's not a requirement.
No, because obviously, well, it's not a requirement. Like you don't have to know anything about the character, right? You just come to the audition and they say, all right, here's your lines you're going to read, and you read the lines and they say you either got the job or you didn't get the job, right? There's no like survey like, all right, tell us 10 things you know about Gambit.
No, not at all. I know Ray, who does Cyclops, was like, we just did an interview where he was like, yeah, I was aware of him, but like, he wasn't obsessed. And I don't know about Matthew, but I have a feeling he wasn't like, Magneto was my favorite character growing up. And, I'm sure he didn't. Me and Matthew have worked together a lot, so I like to take the piss out of him.
In some of your previous roles, you've been fan of the character versus not necessarily having been a fan of the character.
You're
Obviously,
Han Solo.
That's crazy.
Han Solo.
That's crazy. I still don't. I do have my childhood Han in here. He's up on the. This is the one that I.
That's the good. That's the beefy one.
The beefy one. Yeah, the one
beefy one. That's what I meant to say.
Doesn't skip chest day. That's well, that one I would say. I was lucky with that specifically because it was something I was already doing. Like I was doing that impression, and someone heard me do it, and they were like, "You should audition for this." And I was kind of like, I don't know if it's good enough. And then I sort of recorded an MP3, or maybe it was the Indiana Jones thing I did where it's him and his father yelling at each other. And then my friend D. Bradley Baker, who's a legend, I was like, hey, he's an awesome, incredible dude. And I was like, I know you work with Lucasfilm a lot. Like, could you listen to this and tell me if it sucks? And D was like, "It's actually pretty good. Do you want me to send it to Lucasfilm?" And I was like, "All right,
if you don't mind."
Yeah, if you don't mind
doing anything.
I was like, "You wouldn't just send this." He's like, "Nah, if it sucked, I just wouldn't bring it up." And I was like, "All right." So he sent it off, and then I didn't hear anything back. And then I just got like a generic audition that they must have sent to a bunch of different people. Hey, Jeff, no, you're the best. But I got sent that's Jeff May. He just popped up in the thing. Anyway, I got sent an audition, and I'm sure they sent it like 100 people, but there was a list. So when I got it, I auditioned, and it was for young Han Solo in the Forces of Destiny cartoon, and I had like 4 lines. And then I re-auditioned again like a year or 2 later for some sort of Lego thing, and then I auditioned again, and it was kind of like I was just in a pool of auditions, and then thankfully it started becoming less auditions, more do you want to do this, and me being like yes. So, but it definitely helped to know that stuff, because I was making references to like the first time I worked with Dave Filoni. There was a part where I was just doing a stormtrooper. He's like, "Can you guys say hey at this moment?" And I was like, "You mean like when Wicket steps on the stick and the scout trooper?" And he's like, "That's the hey I wanted." And I was like, yes, finally this useless information comes into play. So I'm sure knowing that stuff helps. But
yeah, for sure. But yeah,
has Harrison heard?
What was that?
Has Harrison heard your
I doubt it. I highly, unless he's playing the Lego games or something. I'm sure he's
I can
not.
see that. I can see
that. Put on the Lego game, Callista. I want you to put on. Just mumbling and yeah. What about my favorite game where I don't do any work?
That's so
I don't
good.
have my pop filter on, so I apologize if all my because it blocks half the screen.
That's all.
Hopefully
good.
I
That's
sound
all good.
okay.
The mics have been the issue tonight, so you probably have the best sounding, most professional mic in the
I
room.
don't know. Without this pop filter, it just sounds messy. So
And that's MIC because we have the most professional mic in the room.
that's
Like
yes.
I get paid to be
No,
a
I've
mic,
heard.
hence
I'll put a
I'm a
little.
professional.
But yeah, no, that speaks to your range as far as characters go. And your prior to Gambit, you were on Gremlins, the Secrets of the Mogwai.
Insane.
And as far as range goes, I don't know if you can get much more range than Gizmo to Han Solo Gambit. That's like I think that's it. I think
It's
that's the high and the
wild.
low.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's the
wild.
Trinity.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is about I loved Gremlins, but it wasn't like I'm a obsessive fan of Indiana Jones and Han Solo and Gambit and Marty McFly, and Gizmo was just something my dad and I would do. So it was. I asked Z when we were on a Comic-Con panel, the executive producer. I was like, "Why did you guys cast me?" Because I just assumed everyone can do this voice, and he was just like, "Well, you sounded the most like Gizmo." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that was it. There wasn't any." There wasn't anything special, no special sauce. It was just, it was the closest. I was like, all right.
I clenched the hardest.
Yeah. It's something my dad still does it. He used to make my stuffed animals talk, and that was how they sounded. They'd all be like, they would just, that's the noise they made.
Yeah. Hey, don't do the voices. You're going to get us copyright.
Oh,
strike.
sorry. It was some other copyright-free Gizmo.
Gizmo.
Someone just said in the chat Gizmo. I was like, what
it's an old live stream mascot thing that we had. It's a bootleg. It's a bootleg Gizmo that's seen some shit. He's
is
his
this
eyes
the
are-
Gizmo
1,000-yard
toy with
stare.
the eyes that do this?
Yeah.
I saw that for the first time at Comic-Con, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah,
this
he's-
scene?
Sort of became infamous on our older live streams that we used to do. He's not here. He's actually at the studio. You can see him in the back of the shelves of all of our videos. So this is my personal collection. That's over there.
I will
at the
have to
office.
look for that. I'm not in my toy wall because the sound is not as good. If I went there, it'd be too loud. My dogs would be barking. There'd be all kinds of stuff. So.
Well, so I know you've been posting on social media that you do have a bit of a Gambit collection.
I do from childhood, so it's pretty. Again, weird. This is weird.
Not just from childhood.
Oh no, not just from childhood. No, I have my own stuff. Everything that's Gambit 97, I'm buying. So I'm like, I have. Actually, just took it out because I was afraid it was going to fall. But this pewter one from college that my friend got me. And, it's
fancy.
It's a whole thing. Thank you. I have the IKEA, the Detolf or whatever, and one section is just stuffed full of X-Men stuff. From years past and current.
I think I brought this up because you were a guest on our other show, our Patreon exclusive show called The Secret Lounge.
Yes,
you were a guest on that show a couple of times, and those episodes are still up. If anybody wants to join the Patreon and go watch those couple of interviews with myself and AJ, and one of the things that I remember talking to you about then was what I'm always jealous of whether it's voice acting or regular in front of the screen, in front of the camera acting. Not to really draw a distinction between the two, is when you get action figures and it's like, there's only one person who can do the voice of that action figure correctly. It's you right now for the Gambit stuff.
It's so crazy. Well, this is my first. Everything I've worked on, I like the LoTor I have is the 80s LoTor. It's the terrifying. My friend got me for my birthday, and I'm like, all right, thanks, I guess. He's he's got he's not quite the. My name is Betty. He sounds like from Kung Pao. Anyway, no, I totally. This has been my dream since I was a kid to have a figure that I am somehow attached to in some way, and it's mega.
Yeah, because you can't do the voice of the vintage Toy Biz figure. It's not yours.
Exactly.
You can only do the X-Men 97 Gambit voice.
No, that's why I leave them in the box, so I'm not tempted.
That's fair.
Well, it's funny, Mike and I were talking about this earlier this week. I was positive I had a Gambit action figure. I know I have owned Gambit action figures, but I don't currently own any Gambit figures. And what I realized the reason for that was that Gambit is very popular and people want those figures. So every Gambit figure I've had, I've sold for a very hefty profit. So I don't have any
figure.
Well,
you gotta get that Legends one.
Yeah. I think it's still sitting at the Walmart in the area. I need to go grab that one for sure.
It's
But
the
see,
day-
because my X-Men are the pride of the X-Men.
I know.
so
I've seen you say that, and I respect it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the one episode. That's your X-Men. That's so funny.
That's it. That's it. I meant to grab my mug. I meant to go grab my mug, and I was going to be drinking it while we were sitting here. But all the technical issues blew it up. It's the Outback X-Men are just sort of like wrapped around the mug, and that's more that pride of the X-Men era. It's what this is a long way to say that I'm old.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't find out about Pride of the X-Men until the 2000s. And then somehow I had seen the Japanese intro. They're like, cry for the moon, like years ago. And I was like, what is this? Like, how there was a period of time where like you would see it in a magazine or you'd hear a friend would tell you about it, like type in this code. And that was the only way you'd get to enjoy media or get to hear about things. Like, that's what Japanese X-Men intro was for me. Someone showed it to me somehow, and I was like, "What is?"
Well, so that's not Pride of the X-Men, though.
No, I know that's not. But
okay.
I'm just saying, like, I knew about that before Pride of the X-Men somehow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And before
Dan's
the show,
Wolverine is Australian. That I do know.
Yeah, the Pride of the X-Men. Well, back then, it was all like, for whatever reason, he had an Australian accent, and it's like whatever,
The Crocodile Dundee thing, right? I feel like you did an episode about this or something.
We did.
Right?
I mentioned it, and hey, Australians were hot back then. It was a big
they
deal.
still are. People love those guys.
That's not a knife. These are knives.
Yeah, Paul Newman. You had Kangaroo Jack. You had the other guy. What was the Energizer battery guy? I can't remember that. Not the rabbit. The actual oi, that guy.
There was an Energizer, Australian Energizer guy.
Oh, boy.
This is not something I'm aware of.
Oh boy. So
I thought
back
that was
to
just Crocodile Dundee.
No, yeah.
What was his name, Kate? Do you remember?
I don't. It was like the Crusher or something like that.
I don't know. He was
I think of batteries.
He was really amped up all the time.
Yeah, he was very
Jocko. That's what it is. Machine Man and
Mark
Chad
Jacko Jackson.
Yep.
I just looked
Jocko.
at
Jocko.
Yeah, for Jocko, whatever it was. Yeah.
I feel like I have a deep well of weird, obscure. Like I'm obsessed with the Cool Spot like logo, the 7-Up logo, and stuff like that.
Had the game, yeah.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite like weird things that like they did it. They got me. Young me was like 7-Up's great, and I only wanted to drink 7-Up because I liked Cool Spot so much. Yeah.
So back to original voice actors versus current voice actors on these characters. When you were approaching Gambit, was there any part of you that was trying to emulate the previous voice actor, or were you like, I need to keep that in mind? There's a certain way he sounds, but
yeah, it was a weird thing because they clearly wanted a voice match or someone that felt like Gambit in that era, and so there was that. But then I was kind of improvising a little bit of Cajun dialect and stuff. There's my buddy Chet, who's Cajun. I was asking him questions, and I was just like, "Would this be appropriate? Can I fit this in here? And can I, but without telling him what it was?" And I found out later he really doesn't know what the X-Men is, so it didn't matter anyway, which is really funny. But I was like, "Would this be appropriate? Can I put like Kia or like Mon Dieu, like all these different things?" He was like, "Yeah, okay, this and this," and so I didn't do that for the first audition. For the first audition, my thing was just trying to sound as much like Chris Potter as I could. And then I think I improvised a few lines like, "The name is Gambit, remember it," and a couple little things like that at the end that wasn't required. Because they did have lines you would copy straight up, and then a bunch of lines that were things you've never heard of from like the comics or something. And I just beat it to death. I just did it over and over and over again until I was like, okay. I sent it to one friend who was probably under NDA, and I was like, "Is this okay?" And she gave me a direction. If Gambit ends a sentence, the pronoun, what? If Gambit ends a sentence.
So Gavin, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Gavin, I believe Gavin is actually from Louisiana or New Orleans area, has that sort of, and he's been in my Discord that we have for Secret Galaxy, and he's been sort of really listening close to your accent and saying,
God,
it's pretty good. It's pretty close.
It's not, I mean, that's what's so tough is I'm sort of straddling the line between what was established, because that's so what Gambit's voice is. I guess that's the hard thing too.
Yeah, give Gavin a call.
Yeah. So that was one of the biggest struggles is when I went in to do the audition, there was kind of a discussion of like, how Louisiana authentic are we going? And it was sort of like, we incorporated some vocabulary and stuff that hopefully made it in. Gambit sounds a specific way, and it's not quite the most, I know Chris, I'm gonna do it. Oh, the me thing I'm aware of. I might have thrown one or two of those in one of the episodes. We'll see.
Yeah,
But who knows?
I believe it's pronounced Louisiana.
I don't think that's right. Nolans. But anyway, yeah, that was definitely a discussion. The tightrope walk between how much do we sound like Chris, and then how much can we incorporate some more authentic stuff. And so it's a very tricky line, and hopefully it's okay. But yeah,
he gave you his blessing. He said you're good.
He was very sweet. I saw him actually at the premiere, and apparently the thing I was hearing is he was the person I was most nervous to meet. Is like what I keep being told is he's having more fun doing Cable than he did, because I know that he was sort of always self-conscious about doing Gambit, and sort of the other crew would rag on him a little bit. I'll be like, that's how you're gonna do it. Apparently that's what Cyclops would say all the time, the original voice actor. And so I guess what I've been told is he really loves doing Cable, and I'm like, oh, that's great. So when I met him was actually at the premiere, where I found out he was upstairs. So I left one party and went upstairs to the other. And as I'm walking up the stairs, which if you've ever been to the Roosevelt Hotel, there's this weird old Hollywood staircase, and I just see white hair like slowly as I'm like coming up the stairs. I'm like, that looks a hell of a lot like, and I just went,
boy,
Chris. Yeah, and he was standing up there. He's like, and I was like, you're Gambit. I was like, I'm new Gambit. I probably said something
kind of
really
Spider-Man meme where you guys are pointing at each other.
Yeah, except then he just kicked me down the stairs.
Yeah,
there can only be one.
You were,
yeah.
You no. But he was super sweet. He was like, they couldn't have picked a better person, and I was like, oh, thank you. Like, I didn't know what to say. I was like in shock and also a little choked up, and he was just super, super sweet and nice, and was like, I love Cable, and it was really weird. I mean, honestly, for a kid who grew up with this, it doesn't get weirder than that. I feel like I've been in some pretty surreal situations, and that was
yeah. I feel like Harrison owes you the same moment. I mean, come on.
I have met him. I think I told you that. Was it on your podcast that I said that?
Yeah.
Wow. And he shook my hand, and I was like, ugh. But it's it was he's awesome. I'm babbling. He's awesome. Okay. We only got to meet that one time, and hopefully in the future I'll bump into him again. But he was very nice. And
have you bumped into anybody else that's played Gambit? Like Tyler, what's his name? Tyler Kitsch from.
Oh God, no.
From the Origins.
Is that his name? Taylor Kitsch?
Taylor. I'm sorry, Taylor Kitsch.
Yeah. No comment. He did the best he could with what he was given. Everyone in that movie did. Everyone in that movie tried their hardest.
He's the best live action Gambit we've had.
This is true.
It's true. You can't deny that. There were choices made, and good. He did it. He did the best he could. Yeah, I won't say anymore. I feel like I'm gonna get
no.
Someone someone from whoever made that movie.
None of these guys are watching. It's
good. Okay, good.
It was not the reason that movie wasn't good. I'm just saying.
No.
Phil Lamar I saw in a grocery store because he played Gambit in X-Men Evolution, right? And I wasn't sure it was him, so then I randomly tweeted at him like, were you at Albertsons? And he was like, oh, you should have said hi. And I was like, damn it, Samurai Jack was behind me in the checkout line. But no, I think that's it. I haven't met him.
And I mean,
there's not many of us.
Yeah, and then I mean, Channing Tatum has it locked up for the next time, right?
I guess I don't know. I mean, that was a thing like 10 years ago, but I feel like that's that thing where he keeps popping up and then it disappears. So
if you like, I literally just Googled Gambit movie actor and Channing Tatum comes up.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Never had anything to do with it.
I always thought Sawyer from Lost would have been a good Gambit when like back in the day. I feel like he would have really killed it. Because he's got Gambit has a certain amount of like street worn. Maybe he smoked at some point. Like physically, I feel like there's a bit of a raggedness that when you bring him to the big screen, he kind of needs to have like a little bit of a weathered quality that I would love to see. But man, yeah, if I can go back in time and just make a Gambit movie with him, I'd be like, nice, we did it.
Yeah. Sometimes this stuff, ends up in a place where you don't expect it to end up. And I think the reaction to Gambit in the first 2 episodes has been interesting. You've been retweeting a lot of
yeah, I try to be careful about what I retweet because some of it is like, oh, that's racy. But yeah, his little crop top. It's so much fun. I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
still a Disney show, so I try to keep it. I try to keep it family friendly. But
yeah, Mike almost cut up his Yoda shirt.
I did. I was gonna just yeah.
I do have
the only band shirt I've got,
and
there,
yeah. It's been fun and funny, like I love when stuff like that just sort of takes on a life of its own. That's not
Yeah.
something that was put out there by Disney, by the production. They weren't hoping that that was going to be a viral thing that happened, but it's been all over my feed from a range of people.
Same.
And not just because I follow you and you're retweeting it. It's coming up, organically from other people as well that are just having fun with it. And I love it. And I love seeing that kind of a reaction to the show. And I think if you could have hoped for any kind of reaction, like that kind of positivity is where it sort of reaches out beyond just like, oh, only people who watched it as a kid are going to watch it. And it's like, now it's out there. It's great.
Yeah, I'm getting texts from people who don't really know anything about X-Men that are just like, this is great. And I'm like, I'm glad you like it. I love it too. It's funny when I saw that scene however long ago when we were doing ADR for it. And it was just, I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, this is correct. Like, that was kind of my reaction. It's like, that's Gambit. Like, that's perfect. What else would he hang out in? I mean, in the original series, he's like in a ski lodge in a Speedo. And like, it's just, that's the character. If you look,
he's always got jackets with no shirt on.
Yeah, he's so garish and like, and flamboyant. And that's just part of what makes him so appealing. Like, I think it was this IGN interview I did where I was just basically like, who chooses that? Like, you go to a tailor and you say, I want pink and I want a jacket. Like, it's such an insane outfit.
I want
like,
a duster. I need pink.
Yeah.
I need some sort of like pentagram design.
Yeah, exactly.
Color,
and metal boots. I love it. That's what makes those characters so appealing. They're so designed like to the nth degree. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
It's okay. Would he waste a beignet like that though? That was the one thing. Like, I don't think a real New Orleans person would waste a beignet.
Maybe it was the first one, like how you make a first.
Like it was a bad one. Okay,
yeah, the first pancake, you always kind of go.
Like, I go to Disneyland. I go to New Orleans Quarter in Disneyland enough times. I know what a beignet is.
Like that, but they always have ears. That to you, there's
always
right,
exactly.
All the food does. All the food has ears there. Yeah.
I hope if anything, this job opens me up to more exposure to gumbo, jambalaya, and beignets, because that's been an obsession. Anytime I go someplace, I'm like, do they have gumbo or jambalaya? That's just been a lifelong thing. And beignets. So I'm like, yeah, all about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Jim Lee, he was the sort of just tapping into the aesthetic zeitgeist of the time where like every character he put out there, like we look at Cyclops's, costume. Like, what is practical about that? It's just this weird unisuspender thing, like, and the trunks and the thigh straps and whatever. But it just it reeks of that moment in time. As does Gambit, as does Bishop, all of those characters. And it's perfect. That obviously that outfit for Rogue, people still prefer that outfit over any other outfit she's had. Now, I'm an Outback X-Men. I'm a pride of the X-Men. Right? So I prefer the head to toe black, one piece with the green crop top on her. That's my Silvestri era Rogue. But what are you going to do?
I'm also a fan of the X-Men Evolution outfit. I always thought those were really cool, but only Rogues. Everyone else, I'm like, yeah. But Rogues, I always thought was super cool.
The X-Men Evolution ones were just basically like the movies, but not. They were the 2000 movies, but a little bit different.
There was kind of an era where that was sort of a thing. I feel like where they're like, it's like the movies, but we can't legally really do the same thing. And I was always a little confused by that as a kid. Like the weird Hobbit game or the Lord of the Rings game that came out for PlayStation 2, where you're like, is this related to the movie? There's this sense of dissonance between the two properties.
It's not related.
Yeah, that's at the time that you just take in anything. Like, was it Spider-Man 2099 or the Spider Unlimited that came out? Where I was like, why are there lion people? It's very confusing.
I don't remember Gambit's hair in Evolution.
It's a bowl cut. I would say I try not to talk bad about most things, but that is an atrocious choice. It's funny. I just looked at it the other day for some reason. It's just like he looks like he's in the Three Stooges. He looks like Mo.
No.
It's worth a Google. I don't know if it's consistently like that, but the image I looked at, I was like, ooh, someone made a choice.
No! Oh, he's got the little soul patch thing going there.
It was very indicative of its time, which is somehow worse than the '96 look.
We don't talk about that.
It's all better to have him.
It's part of my childhood.
The 90s, well, because there was that one season of the original X-Men where it was all redesigned, or it was a different animation studio, and everything's a little. I remember as a kid seeing that and being confused was my main reaction. As I was like, this is the same but different, and you have no way to. Again, it's that magazine thinking where the only way you can find out about things if a friend tells you about it or you read it in a magazine. There's no way to look it up online. And at the time, I was just like, is this the same show? It was just the voices were different. So yeah, it was interesting.
Kate, you want to kick Robert out of the show, please?
Shaving a haircut, 2 Gambits. That's beautiful.
Like it, actually,
that's beautiful. I love that. I'm all about that.
We'll take this question real quick here. Have you? You do not answer as Gambit,
as I might get legally.
Yeah, exactly. There's certain voices you can do. There's certain voices you can't do. Just for stuff.
Disney specifically.
Answer as Gizmo.
Or Han Solo.
You don't have to worry about Warner Brothers.
Do you recall any? Is there any episode of the original series that sticks out to you by any chance? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. I'll tell you what my favorite episode is here. None of them, because I didn't watch it.
Oh my god! All right, get out of here. I feel like the one that everyone thinks of is the Pride of the XMen or the Night of the Sentinels, where it's like that's the one that played incessantly, and that's the one that's burned into my brain. Is that this one's for you, Morph? Is that forever burned into my head? Like, there's a mall baby chili fries. Like, there's just so many things in that stick out to me as being so pivotal. I really liked when Bobby calls Gambit and he has to go back to New Orleans, and there's like a whole side plot with anything that was Gambit central or Gambit focused I was into, because I just wanted more about him. I was always sad when like he didn't have a line as a kid because I wanted to see him do more stuff. But that first episode is just burned into my brain. It's kind of like the Ren and Stimpy episode where they go to space, where you'd see it constantly. Space Madness was the one that always played on repeat and it's one of the most horrifying episodes. You're just like, oh, Ren and Stimpy's on, and as a kid, you're like, oh god, I gotta watch them talk about the ice cream bar again. that episode came on the Pete. Maybe that's why.
Yes, maybe
that's why that's burned into my head.
Yep, could be. Gavin's asking, do you any chance you're hitting any cons this year?
It's being discussed. We're in the process because we're still kind of in the beginning of figuring out what to do. And I sort of took a break because of the pandemic, and and then I got comfy. But yes, I will probably be doing conventions. I don't know how far I'll be traveling, but I don't know if someone in England or New Zealand is like, come on out.
Not to compare our situations exactly the same, but that's sort of what I've said. I was like, it's expensive, it's travel, it's other stuff. It's like the show, if somebody wants to invite you, just invite them, see what happens. That's the best place to start. You don't have to invite the entire cast. You can just invite AJ.
Just invite me. But it's something we're all discussing, especially since some of the cast is kind of new to conventions, and it's so much more fun to try. Like when I did Voltron, I traveled with Josh Keaton and Kimberly Brooks and Bex Taylor Klaus, and we would just go as a unit, and it was fun to hang out with my friends and then be like, let's go eat fried chicken in Atlanta afterwards or whatever it is. So we're discussing it, but I think it's like we're a lot to juggle, and plus that there's the OG cast and then us, and they're already represented. It's a whole thing. So we're trying to sort out how it works.
All the security that you guys need.
Gotta have that security. A guy dressed like Juggernaut at all times to protect us. So
you did mention this a bit on our conversation on the Secret Lounge previously, but this is a little bigger audience here that we have tonight. What was your path into voice acting? I know your first job was Marty McFly, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is the most bizarre, non-traditional way to get into voice acting is so I guess the longer version of the story.
You can tell the shorter version. Just tell the shorter version.
Tell the long version, and you'll like it.
All right, I'll be back, guys.
No, the short version is I went to school for film and would just act in friends' films and stuff. So it was just something I did sort of passively for fun. And it was like they don't want to hire someone, so sure, AJ will do it. And and I used to do just voices for friends randomly. It'd be like, oh, do your Michael J. Fox or your Robin Williams or Harrison Ford or whatever it was. And at the time, I was also doing parties as Jack Sparrow. So that was a thing. I did it once for Halloween.
You didn't mention that.
I didn't mention that. I honestly forget about it because it's such a bizarre, like compartmentalized. Like I put it up in the on the shelf and forget about it.
Yeah.
But it was a time, and I did it once for like Halloween or something, and then people started giving me like their business cards. So I started doing parties as Jack Sparrow for a couple of years, and so that was my main income in college. And so that kind of started maybe the whole voice thing where I was like really focused on getting the voice down. And then college ended and I was an editor in Queens. And then for some reason, I saw a couple people sent me the press announcement for the Back to the Future game. And my cousin was like, you should call them. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, call them and audition. I was like, all right. I was naive enough to think that was acceptable, because nowadays if someone said call the company and audition to be something, I'd be like, that's just not how it works. You're going to get canceled.
Yeah.
And but at the time, Telltale was really small, so all their phone numbers were on the sorry, Han, Jack, and the Holy Trinity. Yeah, it's true. They are a beautiful Holy Trinity. But anyway, so I just called Rhoda, the accountant at Telltale. It didn't say what anyone did, so I just called the first person there and left a message. I was like, hey, my name's AJ LoCascio. I do a pretty good Marty McFly. And just left this long message. It was like, it's my density. Give me a call. And then I got a call back that was like, can you send in an MP3 of you doing different voices or different lines? And I was like, okay. So I got a Rock Band mic that I taped to a paint can and recorded it into my computer and sent it out. It's like the most janky ass stuff. And
that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. I went to the EB Games and bought a Rock Band mic because I was like, how do I plug a USB into the thing? It wasn't like you couldn't just get a USB mic like you
That's
can
all
now.
we had back then. Yeah.
That's it. I was proud of myself for thinking of how can I connect
outside
that into
the
a
box?
computer?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I sent it in and didn't hear anything back for 3 months. And I then became very clinically depressed and like was on a Disney cruise line, like staring into the ocean. Like, do I jump? Like literally rock bottom, like miserable.
Wait. Were you doing Jack Sparrow on the Disney cruise?
No, I was with my family.
This was not a job.
I was with my family and I was already depressed. It was awful. It was honestly like being in that environment when you're clinically depressed is one of the most surreal, awful feelings you can experience, because everyone's like, hey, and you're like,
happiest place on earth. Yeah,
it was very bizarre. So it was kind of my brain's way of saying like, hey, maybe it's time to do something else. You need to move to a new spot. So I talked to my mom about it, and she's like, you got nothing going on, just move. And so one of my friends,
love it when your mom's like, you got nothing going on.
You got nothing going on. You got no girlfriend. You got no prospect.
Mom.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, at the time it was useful because she could see how miserable I was. But
the depression.
my friend from college was looking for a roommate, and I was like, screw it, I'll just drive out to LA. And then once I got there in our weird cockroach infested apartment, that I got a call like a week later that was like, hey, it's between you and someone else for Marty McFly. Do you want to re-audition? And I was like, sure. So I did, and then I got it, and then I had the complete meltdown. And then got to fly up to Northern California and do sessions with Christopher Lloyd and be Marty McFly. And it was terrifying and amazing. And I had so much anxiety, and it was amazing.
Well, there's been a lot of comments this week since we started mentioning you possibly being on the show 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. And I've been seeing a lot of comments where people were like, I played those Back to the Future games a lot. That's where I first heard of you.
It's crazy.
I still love your Marty. You're still Marty to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, well, Michael J. Fox still alive. He's still out there.
He's still out there somewhere. Yeah, no, that's wild. I mean, Marty, all these characters are such an obsession of mine that it's weird to get to then play in the toy box with them, and then you hand them off to whoever their IP owner is, and hopefully they hand it back at some point. But it's all very surreal. Like, I'm still not over the Marty thing.
That's a weird one too, to have been able to capitalize on this sort of retro revolution that sort of came back. Like Back to the Future, there wasn't much going on between 1980. When did the third one come out? 86, I think.
I'm
88.
Not sure
no, it was later.
Yeah,
later than that. But there was nothing going on with Back to the Future for years,
right?
And then for you to sort of be in that right place, right time. It seems like right place, right time now, right? Like it seems like, it was fated. Of course he was going to get it. To me.
Well, for sure, it feels like that in hindsight. But it was also weird because it took on a life of its own, where it kind of went viral before that was really kind of a thing. Where I was just like Kevin Smith talked about on his podcast, and they animated me talking about my me crawling into Michael J. Fox's body and using him as like a human hermit crab. Like, it was a whole, there was all these weird things that happened where I was like, what is happening? I made one phone call and suddenly there was this bizarre thing that happened. And then, honestly, for everyone that asks me about how do you get into voiceover, that was very lucky, but it almost meant nothing to anyone. I was, agents didn't care. They were like, that's great. You do a great impression, kid. Bye. So then it took 2 or 3 years for me to try to take that and turn it into something. Cause then I had to all right, I have to figure out how to do other voices and prove that I can act. And I kind of had, I had a leg up, but there was also this feeling of starting from zero. And so then, I was able to get an agent and stuff, but it was cool, but it wasn't like, you got an agent, kid, welcome to Hollywood. Like there was then the steep decline of what.
Yeah, well, I assume, I lived as a freelance artist for a really long time. And what you find out is that, they don't come looking for you for work. Like,
no.
Oh, I saw that one thing. Maybe if they needed another Michael J. Fox, another, Marty McFly, they might, but nobody was sitting out there saying like, oh, we've got this role, go get that guy. He could do Marty McFly. He could probably do this other character. Like you have to go sort of find the work, right? Like you have to put yourself out there in other ways to make people see you in different ways and consider you for other projects. I assume there was a period of time where you had to do that kind of work and let people know, hey, I'm out here, I'm doing other stuff, I've got range, I can't,
it's like, very hard. And then also trying to figure out, so many of my friends have TikTok and stuff, and the temptation to just go out there and blast the internet with like, here's every voice I do is so strong, but it's not really in my DNA to do that. So then I constantly sort of beat myself up on like, should I be doing that? Should I be out there doing Han Solo impressions every single day and showing people like, oh, what if I miss an opportunity? Like there's always that sort of pull. And I mean, for me, ultimately, that's just not who I am. I kind of just hope, like I when an audition comes, I feel very lucky that hopefully I get a crack at it, but sometimes you'll miss them because they've asked someone who they saw online to do something, and you never know. But you're always fighting. Like anything, people keep asking me, how did you get Gambit? And I'm like, I auditioned. It wasn't like I showed up and they're like, hey, we asked for you specifically. Like, that's it. I just auditioned like everyone else, and there was no pre-anything as far as I'm aware.
I didn't have my proper show prep done here. I wanted to make sure we did talk a little bit about your other profession here as a
my profession. I don't have any of them in here. I wish I did.
I'm killing myself. All of ours are all over.
I'm sorry. I could go run and grab one. I've got a giant.
No. I'm going to bring up your Instagram here.
Oh, okay.
That should be good enough here. So you had
light. That's important. I got to voice Emmett for a lot of Lego stuff, so that's why he's in here.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Absolutely nothing to do with what I'm trying to get on screen here.
Not at all.
So this is your other Instagram here.
Yes.
Your AJ LoCascio's Spoops. That's Kate in the back.
Hi, Kate. Thank you, Kate.
So excited.
So during the pandemic years, you got to making some characters and some fun stuff, and teaching yourself how to sculpt and cast and do actual resin casting, painting things, and that. Well, I don't need to tell your story. You could tell your story. Short version.
Sure. I mean, it's a weird thing where I've always been obsessed with Halloween, but there was a period of time specifically, and I was working as an editor, where I just fell down the Tumblr rabbit hole of like collecting images of Halloween and wanting so badly to make Halloween decorations. And being in LA in a crappy 1-bedroom apartment, you can't just make giant Halloween decorations. So I started building little tiny things. And the pumpkin spoop was the first one. It didn't have a name. It was just a little pumpkin guy. And it's he might be far down there. There's one on the right. Not that one. There's a different one.
Ghost.
That's Pumpkin Ghost. It's a whole other thing. There's a sort of, don't worry about it.
I'll get to it. It's fine.
But that was the first one. And I like sort of made it and put it on my desk. And then I made a little skull one. And I just started making them as kind of like a little way to get out my love of Halloween. And then like a year or two later, the show Voltron got really big, and there's a bunch of them in a box. Some of the older designs, but it kind of blew up, Voltron, and then people started combing through my Instagram pretty obsessively, and someone picked up the photo of the first pumpkin one, and they were like, "How do I get this?" I found about it Spoops from Funhouse. Oh, that's crazy. My friends James and Elise. Thank you so much. James has been on here. He's been on your show.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, people were like, how do I buy these? And I was like, you don't? I just made it.
I just made them for me. They're mine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then enough of them started getting shared online because there was sort of this fervor behind Voltron that I was like, all right, I'll try making a couple. So I made like 10, and then they put them up on like eBay or Etsy or something, and then they sold out really quick. And I was like, all right, I'll try making 30. Those are the stumps. And then it just kept going, where I was like, all right, I'll try making 50. And then it sold out. And then it just kind of kept going, where people were like, these are so spoopy. And I was like, what does that word mean? And then I sort of started referring to them as spoops, and it just kind of stuck. And then it slowly became a thing. I was like, all right, I'll try making like a little candle or a plague doctor. And it just kept kind of snowballing. And so now there's thousands of them out there.
And you are elbow deep in production right now.
Yes, we as in me just did a pre-order, and it was a lot of spoops, and I feel very lucky, but it takes a long time because I sculpt them and I make molds, and then now I thankfully have a friend that helps me with castings because I can't at this point do them in my kitchen, or I will kill me and my dogs and my partner because it's just too much chemical stuff. But I have someone local who's a local artist that helps me cast them now. Thankfully, I would go insane without them. And but I still paint them all. Like I just watch spooky things and paint all of them by hand. And it's psycho. I know it's crazy, and everyone's like, you got to get them produced.
No.
I don't want to do that unless if someone shows up like Mattel or something, like, all right, we're doing spoops. I'd be like, oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, here's $8 million, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, here you go. But it is.
I can come up with some other ideas. Yeah,
these are called poops. But it's. Just...
I'm listening.
I've got one customer. So yeah, it kind of is just, but it's this thing that it's this weird sort of feedback loop, or maybe that's not the right thing, of like, I really love making them and I'm really lucky that people love collecting them. So it's this strange feeling of like, I love these and they're things I want. And so the fact that other people want them validates me making them for me. I just have to make then a couple hundred extra for friends, essentially. Like, it's really surreal and weird. And I'm so glad that whoever picked up on it from Voltron was like grabbed it and threw it on Tumblr, and then I've made friends and stuff through them discovering these and being like, you like Halloween? I like Halloween. And it's very wild.
To be clear, they are not for sale right now.
They are not for sale right now. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm in between. There was a pre-order,
a very big pre-order.
Yes, a little while ago, and now they're all mostly cast, and now I'm gonna start painting, and there'll be some updates as I'm buried under spoops, painting each little eye by hand, and all that stuff. So that's going to be a thing.
Pre-order.
How many?
All of them.
7,000. That was honestly.
They're all coming here.
I think you put up like 8. You put up 8 or 9. I think you put up 9, and we had to order 8 of them.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your bank account.
No. It's all good. It's all good.
I feel so. There's this
merchandise.
Thank you. There's a combination of like guilt and joy where I'm like, thank you for loving them. I'm so sorry that you're spending money on these. It's really weird because I'm like, if I was a millionaire with infinite time, I would give them to everyone because I'm so thrilled they want them.
No. That's not how. No,
I'm a bad capitalist. I'm very money motivated.
Terrible capitalism.
I know. That's why people are like, you going to conventions? And I'm like, I want to cuddle my dogs, and they're not at the convention. And they're like, you'll make money, and I'm like.
Hey, Joe Manganiello takes that little dog with him everywhere. You can do the same thing.
I got 2 and they're loud.
Right.
Yeah, it's does he? That's so funny. Yeah, when I walk them and I'm alone. You can't see both my hands, but I'm like this, where it's like I stack them because one will sit on the other. So I'll just like the older one will lay in my arms and the little one will lay on top of her, and they kind of stack. And it's a weird thing they do. And I'm like,
when you walk them,
well. They're chihuahuas.
Sounds like
so
they're walking in.
You walk them home. When
you get half a walk in, and then they go, excuse me, father, I'm done. And then you have to lift them up. Daddy, please.
My little legs are tired.
Yes, exactly. They are but Vienna sausages. You must pick me up, please. It's a whole, Chihuahua ownership is not dog ownership. It's its own thing. You're owning your own little like marmot creature that has evil thoughts and requires things, and I wouldn't trade him for the world.
One of your dogs is the model, right, for one of the spoops?
Not necessarily.
Come on.
So the bat spoop we got before we got Batty, but then I redesigned it kind of. I mean, she does look quite a bit like the bat. And her name is Batty.
Those ears are
look at that. That's so sweet. She's such a little psycho.
How many times has she set your house on fire?
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Classic Chihuahua behavior.
Yeah, I constantly like, no, not the matches.
Daddy, they want fire.
No, they're little German children. Sorry to any German fans. My accent is terrible.
It's just Kate.
That's fine. Well, Kate, I'm glad you're here because I know I get to hear from Dan that I thank you for the little habitat you've built of Spoops too.
I don't have the picture, Kate. I'm sorry. I don't know if I have one on my Instagram.
Prepared. I knew that I was going to want to share it.
I mean, fill time. I think I have a picture on my Instagram.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell the story. So for my birthday, which is in October, so it's very convenient.
Perfect.
It's very easy for Dan to buy Chris birthday presents.
You just go to Target and buy whatever's in the Halloween aisle.
Yeah, all the Halloween stuff. I'm like, I can have more pumpkins. It's totally fine.
That's me.
Yeah, you can't have too many. Technically, unless they're the really giant blow mold ones, and then that does.
Then you just gotta move things out of your house.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. So I mean, there's how much room is behind you for all? Oh, is that
Sorry,
Batty?
That's one of them now. I guess my girlfriend's probably home, so that might be. That was Ducky. Ducky's the barker, and Batty just kind of yips behind her.
Well, so yes, so I got it was a Playmobile. Country house, like a farmhouse that Dan got me for. Oh yeah, so
this is the old picture. This is the newer picture. But this
is like early. These were like really one or two of my first. And so when the Spoops come, they are so carefully packaged, lovingly, and they have snacks in their little package to make sure that they make it to the house intact. Yeah, so he got me a Playmobil farmhouse.
I sent you those pictures. I showed you those pictures, AJ.
I did see them. No one else will see them.
Yeah,
I saw them. Yes. No, it made my heart very warm.
Spray painted it this dark gray, and it's
got all kinds of little mini, dollhouse accoutrement to go with it.
I love that so much.
So now, whenever I'm out at flea markets and yard sales, the goal is to find. Like little spooky miniature things that I can add. So last week it was that little organ.
I showed it on the last live stream.
Yeah,
a pipe organ pencil sharpener.
What? That's awesome.
Brass, whatever. Yeah,
so we have to decide who is the.
That was the conversation we were having.
Which Spoop is the organist?
Yeah, who would be the organist? Chat said the skull candle.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
That makes
so
sense,
it's. Weird for me to like I have friends with kids and stuff who will build habitats and it's because I started seeing other people doing that where they were building little nests and stuff, and so I started incorporating it into the directions. And there was also this sort of anxious fear of people putting them away. Like I was like very like, no, someone was like, I put my Spoops away for Halloween. I'm like, don't do that.
No,
they're not decorations. Like that was, and I felt like personally, because it's like, there isn't a single Spoop that I don't handle and make sure is as perfect as I can make it, and so they're each special to me.
They're imbued with soul.
With my soul. Yeah. You can never kill me. They're my Horcruxes. Yeah, exactly. I have a whole.
I get it. I totally get it. Though.
Yay! I just saw the little note that popped up there for a second.
Yeah.
But I got upset. There was actually one of my family members who sucks. Asked like they were like, "Can you send me Spoops?" And I was like, I don't want Spoops to live in your house. You're not a good person.
You don't get it. You don't understand Spoops.
You don't get it. But I was just like, they need a better environment. I think that might be the first person I've ever turned down, but it was just like, they deserve better.
Well, you know what? If you go try to get a pet at most reputable places, they're gonna put you through the survey. They're gonna make sure that you gotta get vetted. Yeah, you gotta run their due diligence, make sure you're gonna be able to take care of that animal.
That's true. Although honestly, through Etsy, I couldn't tell. I couldn't say it could be Jeffrey Dahmer ordering them for all I know. I just knew this one person. I was like, maybe not. But yeah, no, I can't even describe how happy it makes me to see what you've done and what other people have done, where they make terrariums essentially or nests for the Spoops. It makes me so happy.
So the best thing you can do, unfortunately, because they are not currently for sale right now, is just follow AJ on Twitter, follow AJ and the Spoops on Instagram, and you'll know when they go up for pre-order again.
Yes, I'm sorry that it's not. It's just because I make them myself, so it's
that's the thing. Quality takes time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. If I had to do, people are like, why don't you leave it open? I'm like, are you insane? Like I couldn't.
I'm one person.
Yeah, and I get scared.
Hey, you know what? You don't want to be like. You can tell when restaurants, like, you can tell when they're making the food out back fresh.
Right.
And you can tell when they switch over, right? To like, oh, now we've gotten big enough. We've got corporate investors, we've got stockholders and stuff. And you can tell when that food switches over to being like frozen.
Yes.
And then just throwing it in the microwave. You don't want to be that.
I don't want the Gordon Ramsay to show up and be like, this is all shit, and just do it. No.
I worked at Chili's. I know what that's about.
Exactly. Like you want to be old.
Stuff. Sorry, I had to look at this. I bought aquarium tiki stuff for my Spoop. That's so sweet. I only have one. The aquarium stuff I've seen is awesome. They make like little aquarium castles and things. And every time I go get my dog's food, I'm always like, those aquarium miniatures are pretty dope.
How many gallons do you need for like 3 or 4
per Spoop? Yeah. What's the right like
gallons?
Yeah, like
for an aquarium.
I would imagine they like fairly small spaces, so they like to nest into things. I would say your average little pumpkin, if they can fit into one of those, they're probably pretty happy.
I don't know. I feel like it's probably it might be on the list, but there was this cartoon called The Littles back when I was a kid.
I remember
The Littles. You remember The Littles? And
yes.
so they would steal things around the house and use them, like little thimbles would be like their drinking cup, or it would be a thread, like a bobbin or like a thing of thread would be what they would sit on for their, so that's kind of where I've been.
Yes.
Like that's kind of the vibe, I think.
I love the idea of them haunting houses and spaces, and so incorporating things into like a magpie will go steal things for its own.
Just like kind of collecting things.
Yeah, but that's sort of my own headcanon for how they exist.
I love that.
But everyone's open to have their own headcanon as long as it's
we do need to refresh some of the candy in the display, though. It's been there for a while.
Oh goodness. Yeah, candy corn doesn't age well. I had some like kind of on display, but they start to sort of crack and get kind of ugly. Although I've noticed that Jelly Belly candy corn tastes not great, but looks great. Brax tastes great. Doesn't look great. That's a weird.
The little tiny nerds box looks really cute in there because the color is so bold against against kind of muted colors. So those all are good.
I'm going to change the subject real quick.
Go ahead.
Because
we're losing everyone who came here for XMen. Yeah,
that's all good. I just want to keep it sort of close to around an hour or whatever.
No, it's fine.
I did want to get back to, you had posted a picture the other day. I think you had posted it. I can't imagine somebody else posted it. But it was a picture of you cosplaying as Gambit.
Yes.
Back when I don't think the term cosplay existed yet.
It did not.
You were just in a Halloween. Was it a Halloween costume? Or
it was I think it was for a Comic-Con. It might have been a Halloween costume. But it was before costume or cosplay was a word. Because I remember at the time that was just not a thing. And I feel like a year or two later, I heard the term and I was like, I don't like that word.
Yeah.
It was like cosplay. It just sounded weird to me, like Digimon, or it sounded artificial. And I was like, it's a costume. I make costumes. But yeah. Oh, no, that was for a convention. Then there was another one that I did for Halloween. But yes, I'm a big nerd. I'm both like kind of half embarrassed that I posted it, but also like, I'm just living my truth. This is That's the thing,
right? Yeah, and that sort of brings us back to where we sort of started off here. Was that it's fascinating to me. It's neat to me to see that you don't have to be a fan of that thing. You don't have to know anything about that character, whatever, because you see it online all the time, right? Like, oh, they should have let Mark Hamill write Last Jedi. It would have been a better movie. Mark Hamill doesn't write Star Wars stuff. If he did, he would write Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, that would be fun. I would love to see that, him being like, all right, and just like typing away at a typewriter. Yeah, no, it's definitely
and the Joker shows up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm getting all the parts in this movie. Yeah,
it's certainly not a prerequisite. I do think that like I'm learning more and more that like if I have any superpower in any capacity, it's my obsessive interest in things, which I think can inform stuff where it's just like I remember for Marty McFly. We recreated the entire opening scene, and I wouldn't say I was arguing, but I was going back and forth with one of the directors. I was like, no, he goes up on this line. And he was like, no, he doesn't. He goes down. And then he played it back. He was like, no, you were right. And I was like, I know, because it lives in my brain. Like, it's I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'm just have no life and didn't have a girlfriend in high school. It's cool.
I'm that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're obsessions. And so for me,
actually.
Yeah.
No, I love these things so much that I hope that informs in, and like especially with like Han Solo stuff where there's moments where like you'll read a piece of dialogue or something, you go, oh, he would go here and here and he would do this, because it's like music. You know the sound of trying to emulate a certain artist or something. Like there's a certain sound that they stay within. And I think that, or I hope that, me knowing this stuff, like with Gambit or Han or Figment, I got to voice Figment once, you can stay within that because you know it, and you're not just taking wild guesses. Because that happens too. You know, you get people who are just like, what's this character? All right, whatever. And they do it. And it's like, yeah, you can feel it.
I'll be right back.
All right.
Cool. Hey, I've got a question real quick.
Please.
So I'm 77 hours into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Okay. What additional voice have I heard?
I forgot. I completely forgot you did. I completely forgot you did Figment. I have this sitting over there on the shelf over there.
That's amazing. Sorry, I didn't. I will answer Mike. Your question.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Brilliant. I don't know. I don't remember what voices I did in Final Fantasy. I have no idea. I know there was a guy in a gym who goes like rippling glorious muscles.
Okay, so, the gym. I muted you as soon as I started that mini game because.
All right, well there you go.
I had to play it over and over and over again so many times. I got tired of hearing the same things over and over.
That's so funny. Well, with something like that, you get called in at like 10 p.m. to go to a studio in Burbank, and it's like, what am I doing? Who am I? So. Yeah, those are weird because you just get a list. You have no idea what's happening, and then it just goes out into the world.
How do you choose what voice to do there? You just like my voice? Am I making it gruff? Am I making it?
Well, for those specifically, which is rare, they have a Japanese person who did it before you. So there's a Japanese voice, and they're like sort of sound in that range. And then sometimes you have to hit their cadence, which is why some dubbing is weird sometimes, because it's like they go up and they stop, and so you'll stop mid-sentence in a way that you wouldn't normally. But it's
normal for Japanese, but it's like not normal in English.
Well, it's just a totally different vocal pattern. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't really remember what I did in that game.
I was just curious.
But the Figment thing is crazy. I'm still. I mean, I only got to do them for that Disney Speedstorm game, but I was ecstatic because who doesn't love Figment?
Well, yeah, and I gotta believe you're top of the list if they need a Figment voice again.
I hope so, but we'll see. I don't know. That guy needs to come out of retirement. We need more Figment stuff. We gotta get our Figment guy.
So I know you can't talk about any of the details really of the series itself of X-Men. Obviously, there's still 8 more episodes. I believe it's a 10-episode series, 8 more episodes. I think they're doing 1 a week going forward. I don't know if there's like a 2-episode finale or something like that.
I genuinely don't. I know they posted a list of some kind, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm glad they're doing it weekly though, because that's
me too.
Part of the DNA of these kinds of shows. Like I've been on shows where they dump all the episodes, and it's like, it just goes and it's gone. Like everyone goes, yay, I'm over it. And they go wander off and watch something else.
I don't get it. Yeah, no, and I hate it. I did see someone say that they wish that the episodes were dropping on Saturdays, not on Wednesdays. And I agree with that.
Yeah. Just watch it on Saturday.
You can't. Stuff happens. People are talking about it online.
I do. There was, I think Brad, one of the producers on the show, mentioned that they debated Saturday, and somehow it didn't work. But the marketing they've been doing for this is nuts. I mean, it's like they're stabbing me in the heart with nostalgia every time they post something, and I love it. Like, there's all these nods to like the cereal. Like, I don't know if you saw the Magneto cereal boxes, and like just all
in the show.
No, they had them as like a promotion that they were giving out to people. And they're killing it. Like everything feels right of that Pizza Hut kind of like the commercials with the VHS, and then it gets bigger. I was like, I love this so much.
I gotta say, I have to be honest. Like I said, I did not watch the show back in the day.
We know.
I'm never gonna let it go. But and in general, I know this would be weird to say, but in general, I'm sort of like over all the bring back the old stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, it was really cool 4 years ago.
I'm totally with you.
Please move forward.
Yeah, I'm totally with you.
That said, in watching the first 2 episodes, I was very pleased with it and ended up actually enjoying it. And then, I watched it a second time because Kate needed to watch it. And I enjoyed it even more. And, I was reading all the comics back at the time, so I know all the lore. And I was like, they're probably going to go this place with the story, and this character is doing that. And they had this, romance.
And I wasn't reading all of the comics, but now I know all the lore.
Nice.
Yeah, I got brought up to speed.
But I appreciate one of the things I didn't like about the show back in the 90s was the animation quality. It just did not work for me. Coming off of watching shows like Batman the Animated Series and some of the things that at the time I considered a little bit better animation, I didn't think X-Men at the time actually had it, and that sort of took me out of the show. This show I feel like has improved on it. And
for sure.
the people who are working on the show, whether it's character designers or I don't know who's making the call, if it's director, if it's whoever, if it's writer, if it's a combination of all those things. I don't know who's making the call as far as like, Cyclops when he's wrecking everybody in the warehouse at the beginning there. I don't know who's choreographing that fight scene, but that is clearly someone who's like, you know what, we gotta nail this because Cyclops is actually capable of doing some really cool stuff.
We gotta make Cyclops cool.
Yes. That's the thing about this is they're doing the thing you want to have happen. Sorry, Dan, I didn't come in to cut you.
No, go ahead, more. Go ahead.
Tell us more about how great it is. Well, I feel like that's kind of the frustration with like for years, every time the movie would even nod at the cartoon, we'd all go, like the X-Men movies. We go, oh, that's the thing from the cartoon. Or like, I think I heard the theme in the theme song. We've all just been dying to have that come back in a way that feels robust and authentic and for it to be acknowledged as kind of the definitive representation outside of the comics of X-Men. And so to have it suddenly happen, where it's like, yes, this is the X-Men you remember, but we're actually
well, and I think part of that comes from the fact that we have 25 years now of superheroes in media that didn't exist when that show was being made. And so there's been all this experimentation and all this innovation and brilliant artists and writers and directors and performers who have been doing things with superheroes to really push that whole genre as an entertainment medium. And now we're getting to sort of see that show in this. I would say the same thing about Voltron, the Netflix Voltron that you did on. Compare that to the original show. It's like it's not even close.
Well, that's it's the thing you imagine as a kid where you went, but what if we did this? Like, imagine if Cyclops, I feel like the board artist who I follow posted the thing specifically about Cyclops yesterday that is like, I did this. And just all those ideas from like years of playing like Marvel versus Capcom or any of the video games, like, why can't Cyclops do this? Or why can't Gambit do this or charge this? Or all the what ifs that are, for me as a fan, that's the stuff you talk about. Like you go get coffee with one of your friends and you're just like, oh my God, could you imagine if he charged his claws? Like, which I know Jake, the director, like that was his pitch. Apparently he like came in with that as a pitch. And I'm like, that's brilliant. But all those little what if pieces and the jokes, like the idea, the joke that murdered when we saw it at the screening at the El Capitan was when, spoilers, but Jean Grey's like, he's here, and Wolverine goes, who, Apocalypse? And I was like, killed, because it's like, you get the characters are so defined and everyone that's involved understands it so well. There's like, when you're a fan of something, there's a shorthand for understanding, well, obviously this character would act like this, and because you don't need to filter it in the way that like when I love the X-Men movies, but like there's a sense that it's new. It's like, this is our X-Men, whereas this is like, no, these are the X-Men we know and love and that we talked about on the playground. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this happened and this happened? And people that are fans are getting to play with it, and not only fans, but like insanely talented artists. So it's so cool to finally see something like that.
Two quick points. One, I do want to take this question from Doc Zen. I assume that's how it's pronounced in the comments. Can someone explain to me how the charged claws are supposed to work? This is my theory. And I don't know if there was any discussion behind the scenes here, or if you were involved, since you do know Gambit the best, since you're doing the voice.
I have a
my theory. Assumption is that they're adamantium claws, and so they are by definition indestructible, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So Gambit's whole thing is that he's charging things with kinetic energy, and that most things would explode when they are charged with that amount of energy, but you can't explode adamantium claws, and so they just sort of carry the charge. That's my guess. But also, I can't explain why that charge didn't go to his whole body.
He regenerated.
Possibly.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's the idea, because Gambit's whole thing is it's kinetic energy. So it's the potential for energy that's going to cause I read up on it too, where I was just like, oh yeah, this works. This makes sense. Adamantium is indestructible. You know what? I don't care.
It was cool. It was
end of the day.
Cool as shit. Like, just watch it, enjoy it. Don't think about it.
Well, because Gambit uses his staff to like, jump off the ground, and it's like, okay, there's a potential of it, almost like a rocket jump or something in a game where you're propelling yourself with the spring of energy. I imagine it as an explosion of energy that is not necessarily.
I didn't see anybody questioning Beast taking over that Sentinel.
That was dope.
Just like
I
loved
it. Yeah.
You put your hands in, and now you can control it.
You can just control it. Yeah.
I don't
just
care.
rip out some wires. These aren't important. Probably.
His line too about this is the beginning of a beautiful involuntary friendship. Killed again. I wish I could watch every episode in the theater, but like seeing the audience react to lines that I knew in my heart were funny. but seeing people get it. Like there was a moment where Jean is saying like, well, you know, when I was on the dark side of the moon, and there was like, she's just talking about something that happened to her, but it's inherently silly. And she's saying it so casually, like murdered the audience. And I was like, yes, you guys get it. Like this is meant to be heavy exposition that she's throwing away because it's like, yes, her life is insane. And it's a joke. And it's brilliant. I don't know. The writing is, if they could somehow manage to keep this up for many years and many seasons, it would be astounding because it's incredible to me.
So it's been interesting to watch with Kate, who is not all up on the lore, and the majority of her X-Men knowledge comes from the movies.
That makes sense.
And so for her, and Kate, I don't want to speak for you, but for her, Rogue was especially like a weird kind of like, wait, I thought she was a teenage girl.
Yeah.
The movies kind of did some stuff.
How old is Gambit? How old is Magneto?
That
they're all roughly in their 20s, except Magneto is, who knows?
He's also
the 1920s.
He's in his late 20s. Because it's just he's more of a silver fox.
He's I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming Rogue and Gambit are in like, I always imagine Gambit was in his 30s and Rogue was in her 20s. But Rogue's voice has always been like, as a kid, I was like, oh, but she sounds like Dolly Parton. You know, like that. I don't know how any of that works.
Yeah, but so it's more a general observation of, you know, is the audience that grew up with the X-Men movies as their, you know, predominant version of the X-Men, and obviously there are people like that out there. Is this something that they'll connect with too? So, you know, time will tell. I don't know if those people are on Twitter. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the knowledge of X-Men is something that's so sort of ubiquitous that I think people understand. Like, yes, Rogue in the movies is very different than Rogue in the comics, and like absorbed Carol Danvers' powers. And, you know, like I remember in the movies being like, how is she going to absorb Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel's stuff? Like it was, and then when she showed up in the MCU, I was like, is Rogue now got like I was doing my own mental math of how this is going to work out. But
look, the X-Men comics are hard. I started reading them probably around like issue, I don't know, 203, 205, somewhere around there years ago. And I had no idea what was going on, but that was part of the appeal, right? Is you just you read the next issue and you're like, oh, okay, look at all these editor's notes. You know, I got to go back and buy some books. I got to figure out things. For years, I thought Rogue's name was Carol Danvers because at the time she had Carol Danvers' powers, and they would always say, she'd say Carol this, Carol that, and they'd all say Carol, Carol, Carol. I'm like, what's going on? I don't even know what's going on, but it's all awesome. And ultimately, to bring it back to that question, that's how the claws work. It's just cool.
It's just cool.
It's cool. It just looks cool.
It's
whatever.
Just cool. I just imagine it's like if you have a baseball bat and you're gonna swing it, but there's enough force behind the baseball bat, like it's doubling the force of whatever you're using. That's kind of how I picture it. Like a card is nothing on its own, but if you were suddenly able to paper cut someone to death, I don't know.
Yeah.
Look, just have fun. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I would love for like MythBusters to come back and explain this. I don't know.
That's all it is.
Look, I'm in a closet with toys. Do I look intelligent to you?
We're already talking about a fictional metal that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
I feel like it's on the periodic table somewhere, right?
Somewhere,
it was
next to californium and
unobtainium. Yeah, exactly.
Unobtainium. Well, hopefully we'll get to see the adamantium versus vibranium at some point, but who knows? Maybe you'll get the call for that one, AJ. We'll see. In the MCU, they got to bring him in at some point. Cool. Well, that's I was hoping to go for an hour. It's hour 15. We're gonna cut it here. Thank you, AJ, so much.
Yes, of course.
For
more
coming
than
by
happy.
and hanging out tonight. Please, everyone, if you're not already watching it, please go watch X-Men 96, 97.
No. There you go.
X-Men 97.
You'll get there,
go watch X-Men 96. It's on Disney Plus too. You can watch the whole series.
Season 2 going to be X-Men 98? Are we just going to go?
You know, I was wondering that. I kind of hope it stays 97 because I don't want to. I feel like X-Men 2000 sounds too weird to me. Like if we keep going and then it's like X-Men 2015,
X-Men
you know, and it's like, all right. I like that it stays in a perpetual state of 90s. That would be my dream.
Fair.
Yeah. Check out please follow AJ on social media everywhere. Go buy his spoops next time they go up for sale, unless he, you know, sells out to the man. And if it says Playmates or Mattel, I mean, we'll all be happy for him, but
you
don't have to buy him anymore after that.
These hands can only take so much. It's working them down to the bone.
Thank you everybody in chat for hanging out with us tonight. It's obviously we're all excited about the show. We're all excited for AJ. Go have some fun, beat up some Sentinels and see wherever this goes. hopefully season 2 happens. I've read some stuff. I've read some stuff about where the production is at with that, and hopefully that is actually going to become a reality soon. And we'll get an announcement on that. So, all right. Thanks again. Thank you to Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm here.
Mike.
Yeah.
Check him out on the Black Series Cantina podcast, talking about Black Series action figures. Today. And just stuff about Star Wars in general.
I got my Black Series Han hiding in here.
Look at you
going. Yeah,
that's been
we talked to the girl that sculpted that one.
That's right.
Oh, really?
That's on his show. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to Kate for keeping an eye on chat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
You say you're welcome.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, and I don't know if we're going to be on next week. Hopefully we will. If not, we'll see you the next time we're on. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.